These are the best barbell shoulder presses that you've never seen. In today's YouTube video, I'm going to be taking you through a handful of barbell shoulder presses that you've never tried, but I think are highly valuable for your shoulders training and development. So come follow along and check these ones out as I break each one down, why you should do it, and how you will benefit from each one. So this first one is called a scrape the rack barbell shoulder press. So you just caught a couple of reps of me doing it, and I'm just gonna go over the setup. But before I go over the setup, why might you do this? So first off, make sure that you do have permission from your gym to be able to actually scrape their rack. Now, some gyms obviously have brand new racks, nice bit of colorful coating on there. And if you're scraping that off, then your gym's probably gonna kick you out. So just make sure you do have permission, or you're using an old rack, or the bar is just not gonna be scraping off all the paint from the rack. Now for this one, I like to set up my, my J hooks. So what you rest your barbell on, basically, the J hooks, just a little bit below where you normally would for your standard barbell military press. So you might find it like a little bit awkward to get into start position for. So what I mean by that is that you're actually starting a little bit low, so it's like a little bit awkward to get under here to start off with. But by setting these low, it means you can get under there and you've got then some clearance above those J hooks to allow you then to actually scrape the rack, okay? So what we're doing from there is we're getting under and in our set position up against the rack. Now I'm just gonna give you a couple of reps of this one, okay? So our core's engaged, glutes are engaged, and essentially what we're doing is pressing that bar up against the rack. Almost feels a little bit like a Smith machine in a way. And then controlling it all the way back down, making sure our elbows are really tucked as we come down. Keeping our core engaged, resisting any extension through that lower back, really driving those elbows up, punching the air with that bar, and then controlling it all the way down, taking our shoulders through a full range. So again, might feel a little bit awkward from this position, getting it back down to that start, but as I said, it does benefit you, just making sure you are a little bit clear of the actual rack itself. Why are you gonna do this over any other shoulder press variation? Well, I really like this one for general shoulders health and longevity. So what you get by pressing that bar up against the rack in that overhead position is an increased activation of shoulder stabilizers, specifically that serratus anterior, which sits there, which is really important for scapular protraction, as well as obviously being an important shoulder stabilizer. So by activating that, it helps improve our stability overhead. What we also get is a really controlled pressing motion. So as opposed to, say, a barbell military press, which is directly overhead and a little bit more unstable, we get a really strict movement, we get a really strict path where we're pressing that directly overhead. I say directly overhead, but actually here's another difference. Because of how we're standing and the rack, we're actually not pressing directly overhead as we would do with a military press. We're actually pressing very slightly forwards. So for anyone that does have shoulder issues going directly overhead, then you might actually benefit from trying this one instead, because again, we're on that strict path of movement, and that path of movement isn't directly overhead as it otherwise would be in a barbell military press. Also, this is one of those exercises that just fall under the category of really hard, but without using as much weight. So if you're someone that wants to get quite a lot out of your shoulder presses, but without using as much weight, then a scrape the rack press can be a really great option for you. I tend to like this one for like sets of 10 to 15, 3 to 4 sets maybe, working really close to failure because you're in a nice, stable, safe position. And I tend to like this one probably more like second or third in a workout, maybe with some pull aparts, some face pulls, something like that beforehand, just to really get everything nice and warm around those shoulders. So that's your first exercise, that scrape the rack shoulder press, give it a shot. Next up, we've got a barbell Z press. So I quite like to do this from the pins, from like a dead stop position. What you can do, instead of having this setup with like the safety bars across, you can have in front of you your J hooks like here, so you would take it off and then you've not got those safety pins to kind of drop it down on. But as I said, I like these from a dead stop position, completely up to you what you use. There's different benefits to either, kind of different horses for different courses really. So I'll go over the technique that I like to use from a dead stop. So First off with these Z presses is teddy bear position, okay? So think about what the teddy bear looks like that you used to have as a kid. Generally sat a bit like that, okay? So probably with a lot better posture than what you can kind of accomplish right now, but that's half the idea, in that you're sitting in this position, which is a postural challenge to help improve that position. So that's one of the main reasons why you might use this, to improve posture and core stability in this position. So you're not also going to be able to use much weight with this one because of that. Over time, you can obviously build up weight as your body gets used to this position. But at the same time, we're really sticking it to our delts, especially if we use this dead stop variation that I really love. So making sure with this dead stop position, we're able to start about chin height. So dead stop, meaning literally dead weight, it's not moving. From there, what we want to be looking at is to preload. So by preload, I mean press the bar a little bit before you actually lift it. It's not suddenly bang and up. It's preload a little bit, drive it up, just on that first rep. So we're here, we're nice and tall. Chest is puffed out, core's engaged. We've got our legs straight. You can modify by bending to start off with if it's really a challenge, or if your hip flexors can cramp up a little bit the first time you try these. But we're nice and tall. Elbows are tucked. We're preloading. We're driving the overhead. Control, control, control. And then we're letting about 50% of that weight of the bar relax through those safety pins before we lift again. So we're not coming down to the point where we could let go and then press. We're coming down to the point where we've still got some tension before we're pressing. So these are really challenging on your shoulders, but then also just to hold that kind of teddy bear position is a massive challenge. If you're doing these correctly, you'll probably find them quite hard to breathe. They're a bit of a cardiovascular challenge, how you're doing them. So when would I do these? Again, like the previous exercise, I would probably do these second or third in a workout. I'm a really big fan of training that rotator cuff, using some face pulls, some maybe like high and medium face pulls like thumbs to ears, pull apart variations, or training rear delts even before you actually do any overhead presses. I just find, especially for my athletes, we just get improved shoulders longevity, but then also we're working on more weaknesses, which tends to be external rotator strength, rear delts, before we work on an exercise where primarily with any overhead press, we're working a little bit more into those anterior delts. So that's why I put this exercise. Really great if you are looking for some functional gains, but then also if you're a physique athlete, they're a really great option to mix things up as opposed to your standard seated shoulder presses or standing shoulder presses, military presses. One thing I really like about these as compared to a standing barbell military press is that they force you to keep your core engaged in a nice upright position. So if you're someone that presses overhead, you get a lot of extension through your lower back. Taking yourself down to the floor in the seated position makes things a whole lot harder. It's more controllable and teaches that core to engage properly and resist extension over time. So those are your seated barbell Z presses. Give those a shot. Let me know how you get along. You can also do these with dumbbells if you just want to play about with kind of that teddy bear position as well. Okay, barbell wall shoulder press. So I've just given you a couple of reps of that. I'll be honest with you, we don't have permission from this gym to do this. They've just put up this brand new wall, a nice kind of sound wall. So I don't want to ruin it. So we're doing this one really, really quickly. So first tip there is to make sure you do have permission from your gym to use a wall. You're not ruining the wall in any way, but some gym owners can kind of frown on you for rolling a bar up the wall. So second tip, make sure you use rubber bumper plates. So they're obviously a lot more quiet on the wall, as well as making sure that you're using the same diameter of plate when you're pressing up against the wall. So I'm just going to really take you through the technique really quick. As I said, we don't have permission for this one. So obviously, make sure you pick up that bar, not like I've just shown, but with good back position. From there, you're getting full range of motion. Below your chin, really with those elbows tucked, you're leaning slightly in towards the wall, cores engaged, resisting any extension through that back. And that's where these are really beneficial because they can help train that anti-extension there. We're pressing that bar allowing those plates to roll up against the wall and getting into that overhead position. So a little bit like when we were doing the scrape the rack press, these work in kind of a similar way. I like to kind of see these as almost like the hack squat is to a barbell back squat, the hack squat machine, as this is to a barbell military press. So we're kind of rolling up and down a fixed plane of motion. We're activating that serratus anterior. We're really activating those shoulder stabilizers. We're improving our ability to get overhead pain-free. And again, it's one of those exercises that fall under that category of achieving more, but with less weight. I bet you're probably not going to be using anywhere near as much weight as what you could normally barbell military press with, or seated barbell press with this one. They're super humbling. Give them a go. Let me know how you get along. But do remember, before you give them a go, just make sure you do have permission from the gym owner. Gareth did not tell you you can do them. All right, guys, we've gone through 3 different barbell shoulder press variations today. They might not all be new for you. You might have seen some of them before, but they're all variations that aren't really used much, but I also think are highly underrated. Now, I'm in no way telling you to go out and you have to be using these exercises because they're better than a barbell shoulder press or a machine or a dumbbell or whatever. My goal with these videos and with all the content that I produce is to fill your toolbox up with as many ideas as possible. Obviously leaving out the junk. We don't have any burpees in there or anything like that. But any good coach will know that the more full your toolbox, the more options you have when you need them. Especially when you're training athletes or clients year round, you need to have different options. If clients have got different injuries, you need to have different workarounds. At the end of the day, our job as coaches is to be problem solvers, and that's exactly what these exercises do. So they're not necessarily better than a barbell or dumbbell shoulder press. They just offer different options. They're different tools to be used when they suit your client or you, based on your phase of training, based on your individual anatomy and your goals. You can also use them for more of a novelty factor, just to keep training interesting as well, or if you want some extra clickbait for social media. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed today's YouTube video. Remember, as always, to like this if you did like it, and subscribe. And we'll probably get into some more like technical videos in the future, but we're kind of really just taking like a 30-foot view of a lot of exercises at the moment, because as I said, trying to fill your toolbox with lots of things. That means there's lots more videos to come, so make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss the next video.